Thanks so much for clicking play and joining me for this episode of She Got Next. My guest today is Therese Viñal. She's the in-park host for the San Francisco Giants, and she's been doing it for about 10 years now. So if you've been to Oracle Park to watch the Giants, you've likely felt her energy, seen her bright smile, watched her dance on top of a dugout. I asked her what her walk-up song would be, and you're hearing it now. Let's get into it.
I have to go with either Backstreet's Back or NSYNC Bye Bye Bye. I love when there's music that involves the crowd.
Yeah.
And talking to some of the other players, choices of entrance music and walk-up songs, sometimes they want to be calm when they go in. Sometimes they want to be amped up. So it really just depends on like the vibe that you're going for. But in my view, this is sports entertainment, and I'm entertaining a crowd, whether that's I'm playing baseball or I have a microphone in front of me. So, I want everyone to like chant in the background, like Backstreet's Back, and then everyone go, all right, like something like that,
Exactly.
as I like step into the box. So one of those two choices, maybe a rotation of it just to hit the millennial crowd, make them feel like I'm one of them.
I have to say, I feel like it's kind of like choosing your karaoke song. I think it's important to pick something that people will sing along with you and be excited for you, as opposed to now they're in their tears, in their beers, because you've got some slow jam happening.
Yes. And it's especially interesting because sometimes some players will have music that I'm like, I don't know this song. And then just recently, Harrison Bader changed his to Super Freak, and you're like, this makes sense. This makes sense for him.
Well, I also think of baseball as being one of the most superstitious sports. There's so many things that have to happen: adjusting your batting gloves, walking in and out of the batter's box. And as someone who's in the stadium day in and day out, you likely have some things that you are doing to, in addition to getting that song right, making an entrance. Before you even get there, there's likely some rituals that you participate in to get hyped and to get excited. I'd like to know what some of those things are.
Yeah, when I come in for a Giants home game, I have to get there at least 3.5 hours before first pitch, because we have production meetings and we need to go over like where cameras are going to be, where audio is going to be, because we're not stationed in one place. We're constantly moving and grooving and interacting with people and around the ballpark. So usually that's when our team kind of goes over camera shots, where we're going to be doing. And that's the first time I usually get the script of what I'm doing that day. So a lot of times I don't know what's coming my way. And then those next like 2 hours or so are my chance to prep, try to memorize, because we're not at a desk, we're not stationed, there's no teleprompter. So trying to also coordinate with my producer and my director to make sure like which sponsorships need to be exactly read, what taglines need to be exactly verbatim, what allows for a little more like creativity and loosiness, I guess. And sometimes it's a little bit of, I'm going to try this today and see what happens, and, throw something on a wall and it sticks. And sometimes it doesn't, and you just move on. So that's like the nitty gritty of it, is how to prepare for it. My colleagues would tell you that I'm too cold brew tea, which means like I have at least 2 cold brews in me before I like hit the microphone. And it's funny because there will be days where I have no caffeine in me, and they're like, how many have you had today? And I'll say, none. And they're like, and you're still like this? Yes. The caffeine does nothing. So I guess my superstition would be I need like at least a cold brew walking into the production meeting, and usually trying to make sure I don't eat anything that's going to upset my stomach. And then right before we're about to go on for our first live shot, my co-host and I, we do the bye 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 chorus dance together really quick, just to like remind ourselves that this is fun and engaging, and that's what this is all about. We're not delivering, CNN hard-hitting news. We're here to take people's minds probably off of the hard-hitting news and have a little fun.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. You said, like, we're here to have fun. We're trying to put people in a place where they can enjoy and escape maybe the chaos of the reality of the world. But it's been a challenging season for the Giants right now. The fans and the foes have a lot to say about the state of play. But we know that in baseball, at least when you're batting, if you're good 35% of the time, you're going to the Hall of Fame. So athletes have to understand and quickly kind of forget what they've done and keep stepping up to the plate. And I imagine when you're going out there and you're cold brewed up or adrenaline up, that you want to keep fans engaged and hopeful, knowing that like what happened last night or the day before or what the wins and losses look like, there's always a chance. So I'm wondering, like, what are some of the how-tos that you have to keep yourself entertained and engaged, and knowing that sometimes those fans are not going to reflect the energy and positivity that you're trying to put out there?
Yeah, I've been doing this now for since 2015. So I didn't do the 2020 season because that didn't really count. So like technically 10 seasons in, and there's been trial and error with fan engagement. But I will say this about Giants fans. They not only are well informed and they run deep, but yes, they can be upset, but they know how beautiful our ballpark is, and they know that the food is good and the beer is good, or the whatever drink preference that you have. And you know that when you show up, whether or not the team is performing well, you can divert away and still have a really great time. I just actually had a production meeting yesterday, and our team, we were informed that the last homestand that we had, the boys are entering in 10 games below 500, which has been probably one of the worst stretches that I've seen since I've been with the organization. And yet, leading into that weekend, we sold out Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and still had over 30,000 people on the weekday games. So people are still showing up, ready to have a good time. If they perform well, great. They'll pay attention to more of what's going on the field. But our crew knows that when the team's not doing well, more eyes are on us. And it's more up to our job to make sure, like, they may not be performing like how you are hoping they would, but you're going to be able to turn to the person next to you, or, forget about it for a second and still enjoy the in-between inning breaks, and still remember that you came out to one of the most beautiful ballparks in the entire country and you're here to have a good time.
Exactly. I mean, I think that's the ticket there, right? Like, Oracle is constantly named one of the best ballparks, if not the best ballpark in MLB. And it is about that fan experience. And now with the Bay Area having such huge growth in women's sports, the Valkyries, Bay FC, we're soon going to have Love SF coming and the hockey team coming to San Jose. One of the things that I think they talk about across the board with those fan experiences is making it like a whole kind of energy. It's not just what's happening on the field. Diehard sports fans are going to be tuned in. They're going to be looking at every pitch, looking at every play, rotation, and when you're pulling them out and when you're not. But for those folks who are in charge of fan engagement, helping families feel welcome, again, like saying, go get the garlic French fries, that's what we're known for, type of thing. It's creating those experiences that make them want to come back, win, lose, or draw. And I'm interested in knowing, like, again, with the Valkyries and BFC that are there have been tons of videos of those players, those executives coming to the game and being embraced by the fandom. Tell me about what it's felt like for you, seeing the growth in women's sports and how they've embraced and been embraced by the Giants organization.
One, being a former athlete myself all the way through college, I love the fact that we're building and we're showcasing so many professional women's sports here in the Bay Area. It just makes me so grateful that I live in an area that is all about that and thrives with women's professional sports. And leading into the season, when I saw that we had like a Valkyries Day and a Bay FC Day, and I was intrigued, because on the business side, you're like, when it comes down, like, if a family is trying to decide how are we going to spend our extra income, do you really want to be sharing it? Like, why wouldn't you be trying to grab that attention for your own profit, for your own team? But yet here we are, like, Valkyries Day, and we're doing Bay FC, and we have their players and we have their coaches and we have their mascots, and we're coordinating fun gate giveaways with them. And especially with the Valkyries being right down the street, I'm like, wait, some days we play on the same day.
Yeah.
What are we doing here? But when I've talked to some of the people that work in the organization, it's more about uplifting our sisters, our neighbors, that kind of a thing, instead of thinking of it as competition. Because, in the grand bubble, yes, it will probably be lumped under like entertainment, but Bay Area sports fans, they run deep in many directions, which is really cool. So like, you can be a Valkyrie. I've seen so many people who show up to our game during the day and they're wearing the Valkyrie stuff, like Giants and then Valkyries, and they're like, I'm going to both, like double header today. You're like, cool, that's awesome. So that's really with all the things that are happening in our world today, it's nice to see, like, at least in our big bubble of the Bay Area, women's athletes are appreciated and uplifted and celebrated.
It's so unique, I think, to the Bay Area. There are other organizations and regions where women's sports have been really embraced. You got New York's got a ton of teams, Seattle's got a ton of teams, Los Angeles as well. But I feel like there's something very unique about the Bay Area. And it's what you said. It's maybe my hat is a Giants hat, my shirt is a Valkyrie shirt,
Yeah.
and I've got Bay FC sweatshirt tied around my waist. And it is about recognizing the value of community and how we can all kind of lift each other up, like you said, especially during these difficult times, and support each other's teams, show up for one another. And I think that's kind of echoed in women's sports in general. And you mentioned playing volleyball all the way through college, which is amazing. Being talented enough to play in college is huge. But I wonder, like, thinking about, like, you and I are both from the Bay. You grew up in this diehard sports fandom, grew up in a family that played sport. Your dad was a coach, your mom was a PE teacher. So sports has just been ingrained in you. But again, thinking about, like, the sport of volleyball and women's sports and the togetherness of it, I wonder if there are things from your childhood, from your playing career, that you apply to the role that you have and the way that you approach the game itself, thinking about community and fandom and teamwork, even.
Yeah.
With your production crew.
I always gravitated towards team sports. Like you said, my dad was a football coach. My mom was a PE teacher. So I just was always the kind of person that gravitated towards volleyball, basketball, softball, team sports. Put a ribbon in your hair and go out there and, like, you know, make people fear you, kind of a thing. But I married a man who played and plays singular sports. He plays golf. He played squash. Like, he played sports where he was, like, part of a team, but it was more of an individual. You know, the individual score was more important than how the team came together to do it. So there's constant times where ideologies will kind of banter back and forth with each other a little bit on how this works. But I think that's one of the reasons why I have gravitated towards being part of this community, my team, my production team, representing the organization, and including the audience as if we are one, instead of trying to be very much like, hey, look at me. This is about me and my time and my spotlight. And, like, I'll sidetrack for a second. In a lot of on-air talent, you'll find a lot of people who are in it for themselves. And it's really hard to find people that are team-minded. I have always put myself in that camp, and sometimes that has helped me and sometimes that has hurt me. But where I am today is because I am a team player, and I've stayed with this organization as long as I have. And I think one of the reasons is because I am a team player when it comes to our production team, our in-game entertainment team, our marketing team, and just also making the audience, the fans, feel like they're part of the whole experience as well, being part of the whole team.
I appreciate you saying that, because I do find, like, it's in the world of influencers, there's a challenge that you're facing, right? Like, I want to be known as this person. Here's what I had for lunch. Here's my workout routine. Here's how I put my makeup on. And there's, you know, no shade to that. But then there are other people who are like, maybe they bring in the values, the lessons, the tools that they picked up from playing team sports, knowing that there are going to be days that you're up, days that you're down. So when you have a family around you that can support you, that can tap in, tap out to lift you up, those things can carry you much further and potentially, hopefully.
Yes.
And I think a lot of times, especially again with women's sports and how they're embraced in the Bay Area, they've thought about that, right? It's not like, well, don't go to the Bay FC game because the Valkyries are here. Like, let's all share this fandom together and we can go further if we invest in one another.
Yeah. It's one of the reasons I'm very excited for the professional women's volleyball team to come here as well. It's also really cool just because I have 2 kids. I have a son and a daughter, and I'm experiencing life through both lenses, which is kind of cool. And I love the fact that both of my kids get to see something like that. And I'm a big proponent of see her, be her, that whole thing. The reason I even thought I would get into this line of work at all was because when I was a sophomore in high school, career day, the keynote speaker was Ronelle Brooks Moon, who was the the PA announcer for the Giants for over 25 years.
Yep.
And I came home that day and I was like, I know what I want to do. Mom, I know what I want to do. I want to talk about sports. And she was like, what are you going to do with that? And I was like, I'll figure it out. It'll be fine. But it was the whole reason she came in, and I just connected with her energy and how she just like delivered things. I didn't ever think I would become a public address announcer, but I knew that like I was really good at talking in front of people. I knew I was really good at sharing energy. So how can I turn that into a job? And in Park Coast was not on my bingo card, but you never know what life is going to throw at you.
Yeah, you're not shy talking in front of 40,000 people. I mean, not a lot of people can have have that ability to do that. You know, I had read a number of times in some interviews that you've done that you point to that interview of Renelle Brooks. Something she said really clicked for you. Do you remember like any part of that speech? Or was it just, I get the energy, because obviously if people know Renelle, you know that energy, she just comes with it. But it may have been one or two sentences. Like
it was her opening line and her energy. Like she came in with her arms wide open, like just embracing you, and was like, good morning presentation. And she like shook her shoulders, and she shared her time of like coming up and how hard it was, but how she wasn't discouraged and how she worked through a lot of that. And so just the vibe of knowing like I've dealt with hard work and trudging through things myself, just being an athlete. You know, you go through highs and lows, and you deal with you know, being uncomfortable in a lot of situations. And I knew if I could apply that to my career, then like a career that's dominated in a man's world, I wasn't really scared of. And she gave me that glimmer of like, it's gonna be challenging, but you can do it, kind of. So it was more about her energy and like how she shared her struggle and how she came to be where she is. That was very relatable.
That's incredible. I do think like there's moments for a lot of us in our youth. There's an opportunity to encourage us to do it, or there's sometimes, unfortunately, times when you're talked out of pursuing something. And it's so important for people who are in a public position, to walk in and encourage people by telling them the truth of what it's going to be like, but also let them know that it's possible. Because if it wasn't possible, Renelle wouldn't have had that job to begin with. So it's clearly possible.
And whenever I interact with young women who come to me and like ask me, how do I do your job? How do I get to be where you are? And my path wasn't one direct shot. And that's what a lot of times this is in sports entertainment and being on air talent. But what I have said to them a lot of times is, one, it's going to be hard. Don't expect one direction. Be open and willing to do a lot of different things and learn a lot of different things. Make yourself a versatile athlete. Make yourself the utility player as much as you can. And then as long as you're good with working nights, weekends, and holidays, because that's when sports are. It's not a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 kind of job. So as long as you're good with all of that, then you're going to thrive, and you're going to be able to stick with this line of work longer than a lot of people can.
I really love that you said that, utility player. That's going to stick with me from this conversation. And even thinking about building the career, I don't know, like you said, you didn't think that this would be the thing that you're doing, but the way that you're making people feel is likely something that you wanted to do. I wanted to be in sports, and I know I want them to feel this way. And as you're going through the ups and downs, you likely had people to lean on. My other world as a brand strategy consultant, I always talk to people, encourage them to create their own like executive board. Yeah. And that includes 4 people: the cheerleader, the critic, the consoler, and the connector. And I didn't put this in your prep, but I'm wondering,
okay,
because I wanted to come off the cuff. If you think through the people who helped you along your journey, maybe there's a person or a couple of people who are just there to cheer you on. Everything you do, Therese, is amazing. You nailed it. And sometimes you just need that. You just need that positive. Are there people in your life or a person in your life who's like, that's been my cheerleader?
Yeah. There's a couple different. I will say, first 2 are my parents. They've been my biggest cheerleader from day one. They've never been one like, are you sure this is what you want to do? They've always been like, calling me after a broadcast, calling me after a game, asking things how to go. Especially my dad. My dad has been probably, my mom is the vocal cheerleader, but my dad is probably the silent mentor, like the more silent assassin, I would say. And he's always been that way. Like sports have always been like our biggest connection with each other. And when I was covering football and when I now working for the Giants, like I'll just get random texts from my dad just as like a way to like check in and see how things are going. And that's how I know he genuinely is like, hey, like I love your job's really cool. Like I just want you to know that I'm still like highly invested in everything that you're doing. And when I had children, it being a working mom is really hard. And I told you, nights, weekends, and holidays, like it's not easy being a working mother in this industry, especially when someone who's on camera, you're constantly like, what 20-year-old is coming up that's the next influencer that might be taking my job someday, and I'm like too old.
Yeah.
But my mom and my dad, but my mom mainly has been, that's how she's shown that she is my biggest cheerleader, because she has volunteered to come. Like, I will watch your children. I will be there for your children. So you can go do this. You need me to stay the night? I'll stay the night. Cause I used to live in the Bay Area, but now I actually don't. I live about 2 hours away from San Francisco when there's no there's no traffic. And
so
yet
3 a.m.
Yeah,
you can get there in 2 hours.
yes. But it all works. So my dad's the one texting me, calling me, talking to me, and my mom is the one that is being like, how can I physically help you to keep doing this, because they don't want us to stop. And then when you said some of those other roles, it made me think of one of my best friends, Carmen Q, who I did a TV show with on NBC Sports Bay Area. We did Triples Alley together, and we also did Summer Sunday together. And Carmen, to this day, I call her like my manager, my agent, my tough guy in the corner. She's the critic, but the encourager at the same time. She'll be like, be ready for this to happen. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Like, don't be afraid to try this. This is what you need to do. She's always like trying to make me prepare for the next thing, be ready for what could potentially backfire. But she does it in such a loving and encouraging way, because a lot of times I'm not wired that way and I'm not thinking that way, but I'm so thankful that I've always had her in my corner to uplift me and encourage me and support me, that I feel like I've just become a more confident woman in this industry, because I've had her. Like, there's been times I'm like, I went into a meeting today, Carmen, and I had you in the back of my head. I was like, I'm not going to be nice about this, but still.
Well, that's what I think is necessary for a critic, right? When I put that out there as who's somebody who is going to tell you the truth, it is because you want them to do it from a place where I want you to be better. Here's the corner that you're not looking around. Here's what I've seen. Here's what I'm sensing. Putting it in the back of your mind, putting something in your heart to make you think through, am I still doing the things that I love? Is it still having the outcome that I want to have on the fans that are in this space? And so that critic role is very necessary, because it helps you see those blind spots.
Yes.
So I appreciate you mentioning her. What about your consoler? When the day didn't go quite that well, when you took that burrito out of his fan's hand and they didn't like the big tease in front of everyone, and maybe that's a weird scenario.
I guess I would probably, my consoler, I would go back to my mom, who's physically, helping with my children. And then usually, like, if something went wrong that day, she's the person I call and I'm like, can I just vent for a second? Like, and she just listens and she's open to that. Yeah.
All right. Your last one is the connector. And this might be Carmen too, connecting you to opportunities, individuals, maybe saying your name when you're not in the room. Again, it's the cheerleader, the critic, the consoler, and the connector.
Yeah.
And it may be someone that you had years ago that helped you get to where you are.
So I'll say the connector in my life has probably been Annika Chavez, who is the senior producer for San Francisco Giants Productions. And I knew Annika, we knew each other growing up. Our brothers went to the same high school. It was an all boys high school. And so we knew each other from prior to that. And my first line of work out of college, I was covering high school sports in the Bay Area for a TV show called Cal High Sports. And there were times where Annika and I connected because she wanted to get into production and she was thinking about doing this. And so we connected a few times, just having that person in your Rolodex. And so, and I'm sure she felt the same way with me. And then fast forward many, many years, when this job with the Giants became available, she was one of my biggest proponents behind the scenes. Like, and I didn't even know. I had no idea that she was like in there being like, Therese's our person. Like, and she was also the one when this role was created. It was new. I wasn't like replacing anybody. There wasn't anybody before me. And they wanted someone that could speak to 40,000 people and then also do like intimate interviews and videos for like the production teams. And that's two different types of personalities. And luckily, I've always had Annika in the meetings that I'm not in, making suggestions for me. And so she's like my behind the scenes person that I'm like forever grateful. My OG, my old school gangster that I will always have is her.
Yeah. That's great. I think sometimes people underestimate how important and powerful it is to have someone who really knows you and has known you that can speak on your behalf when you're not in that space. That's huge. Well, I typically like to ask these last 4 questions at the end of every interview. Just quickly, I'm going to try not to interject because I'm always like, yeah, me too. But the first one I have for you is your first sports memory. Maybe you were playing a game, watching a game, being coached by your dad or your mom. But what's coming to your mind?
The first memory I ever have was I must have been in 2nd grade, and my mom took me to my first Stanford women's volleyball game.
Ooh.
And when the team gets announced, they throw miniature volleyballs out into the crowd. And the best player on the team, she was an All-American. She not only played volleyball and basketball, and she was an All-American for both teams at Stanford. Kristen Focal. I swear, I was like, to this day, this is how my memory starts me. She looked at me, and I was in the upper deck, and she threw it, and I caught it. And I remember being like, this is like, and then I learned more about her because a bunch of the people around me were telling me like, you just caught Kristen Focal's ball. She's the coolest person. And I went after the match, I went down to the court hoping that she would sign it for me. And she was like she was getting ready to do like a radio interview. She had her headset on and she like told the PR person, like, hold on one second. And she turned around to me and she goes, you're the one that caught my ball, right? And I was like, couldn't say anything. And she goes, do you want me to sign it? And I just nodded my head, and she took the ball and she signed it. I still have it hidden somewhere. Like the ink is like, dissipated. It's barely there anymore. But that moment, like changed my life. That was like what I wanted. I wanted to play volleyball. I was like, she can do both sports. I can do both sports. She was much taller than me. I'm only like 5'8" on a good day. But I was so
that's
determined.
My dream height. That's my dream height.
That was that moment where I don't know. It just like all of a sudden my life just went, this is where we're going, kind of thing. Mm-hmm.
What about your favorite sports movie? One that you watch on the regular, one that you quote in your daily life?
Okay. Well, can I give you 2? Because I would say a sports movie and I'll say a baseball movie because I work in baseball. So I've just got my kids into this, but Little Giants is one of my favorite sports movies. It's from the 90s and it's got like Rick Moranis in it and like Ed O'Neill. And it was a really cool movie. Devin Sawa was also in it. He was a heartthrob back then. But it wasn't because of Devin Sawa. The main character was Becky, the Icebox O'Shea. And she was this girl that was just really good at football, but the other boys on the other team were just mean to her because she's a girl. And she struggled during the movie where she's like, she's at the stage now where she wants boys to like her, but she also wants boys to fear her and respect her. So she goes through like this growing process in the movie where she learns she can be both. And I've never identified more with a movie character as a child than I did with Becky.
I think every woman in sports is like, yeah, Becky, we've been there.
Yeah, Becky, the Icebox O'Shea. She was, I remember she puts on her eye black at the end. She's like, call me Icebox. Like, it's just top notch. And my kids both love this movie now, which is great.
Nice.
And then I would say my favorite baseball movie as a woman, how can you not say A League of Their Own? I'm the oldest of 3, and I grew up with a younger sister. And so we were Dottie and Kit. Like, I played catcher. She did not. Like, she was the shorter one of the 2 of us. And, don't swing at the high ones. I like the high one. That was so our dynamic. And now even as an adult and like coaching my kids' youth teams when I can, there's so many times where I channel my inner Tom Hanks where I'm just like Are you crying? No. Like there's been so many moments where it's like, now I understand I am Tom Hanks from that movie. Okay, not far off.
I think that it has to be one of the top, if not the top movie that women respond to when I ask that question. Very cool. So the last question I like to ask has to do with the show title. It's called She Got Next, the show, obviously. Okay. So I'm wondering the ways in which you're creating space for the next generation of women in the industry. What are some of the things that you might be doing on the day-to-day? I know you mentioned earlier that when you have a young girl come up to you, you tell them the truth, that they can do it. It's going to be hard, but maybe there are particular things that you're, again, doing on the day-to-day. Maybe you're volunteering somewhere that you want to make sure that they really can see themselves in the industry in whatever role that they want to have.
Yeah, anytime a young woman reaches out to me, I always try to make time to, do the phone call with them, be honest and real with the questions, but not be discouraging in any way. So that is something that I do. But I will say every home game, I try to always find at least one little girl in the crowd before we start pregame and go up to her and like give her a fist bump and like ask her about like, do you have a favorite player? What are you most excited about? Like just engage with her, because going back to that moment that I had with that Stanford volleyball player, Kristen Focal, where she just like took a moment to talk to me and make me feel seen. That's what I go back to every time. So I always try to find some little girl that's sitting down or like somewhere and like go up and like give her like a fist bump and a little like just a like, how are you doing? Like give her some energy, make her excited. And I know I've been doing this job long enough when I have now parents who have like 18, 20-year-old daughters come up to me and go, my daughter met you when she was 9. And you're like, oh, okay, great.
No, it's a great thing. It's a great thing. It's hard to hear, but you're also like, it's amazing.
Yeah. And they'll be like, you were the big reason why she loved coming to Giants baseball and stuff like that. Because it's that whole see her, be her kind of a thing. Yeah.
Well, thank you for responding to this woman who reached out and said, hey, will you come on the show and talk about your journey? I appreciate the energy with which you approach your job and the way, again, that you engage fans and want to create memories. There has to be tens of thousands of people who leave that space for all these years that you've been doing this job, who feel better because of how you have entertained them and made them feel like this is a place for them to enjoy, bring their families and have fun, lifetime memories. Thank you so much again for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And thank you for those words. That's so kind.
And thank you again for watching this on YouTube, listening on Spotify, following along on Instagram and Blue Sky. Until next time.